This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Always back to practice for the Packers today as they get ready to head west to face the Cardinals on Sunday. A number of players unable to finish the game last week were back at practice, including wide receiver Dontavian Wicks and safety Javon Bullard. Tackle Anthony Bellin also returned after missing the last 2 weeks. Zach Tom, Devontae Wyatt among the players that did not take part today. Again, it'll be the Packers and Cardinals on Sunday. Kick is at 3:25. Turning to Wisconsin, they will host number 1 Ohio State on Saturday afternoon. They will do so, having lost 4 straight games this season and 8 straight Big Ten games overall. It's put a lot of pressure on Coach Luke Fickell as calls for him to be fired have intensified. But Fickell says doesn't control what people say or think. His concern remains with his players.
For me to sit here and worry about all those other things, there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough energy in the day. So the focus for me and for our staff is on the guys inside that locker room and doing everything we can to make sure that we keep that thing rolling. They've got the right mindset. They understand what we got to do together, and we got to put our best product out there on Saturday.
Wisconsin currently a 25.5-point underdog. Haven't beaten Ohio State in 15 years. Kick on Saturday is at 2:30.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers made the trip to L.A. last night as the NLCS changes venues to Dodger Stadium. L.A. has a 2-0 series lead. Game 3 is tomorrow night at 5:08. And the Bucs just a week out from the start of their season against Washington at Fiserv Forum. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to play better. It's not an ideal start to the series by any means. Like, it's not what you want to get off to, but just got to continue to battle and, find a way to get the offense going. I got to be better. We got to be better. Just facts, So fly out tonight, take the off day tomorrow, and be ready to battle game 3.
Both those pitchers were as dominant as 2 pitchers have been. We chased way more than we've chased all year. We've been the best in baseball at not chasing. These pitchers brought out the worst in us.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
It's a good summation of what happened to the Brewers offense last night from Pat Murphy. And always, in victory or in defeat, happiness or frustration, although Murphy's pretty even-keeled, kind of a bar. As he says, these pitchers brought out the worst in us. That first round of commentary, if you couldn't quite make it out, I hope you could hear it. That's the Brewers' inspirational leader, Christian Yelich. Well, got to be better. Haven't been good enough. It's just facts. Nothing changes. There's no message. There's no nothing. Just take the flight today and get out there tomorrow and try to be better. Thanks. Always motivational. Always inspirational. Christian Yelich. We did Christian Yelich yesterday. Now, you can call in and piss and bitch about whatever you want. I said my Yelich piece yesterday. Everything we said yesterday applies to tonight. I don't need to do that show 2 nights in a row. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. The Brewers lost last night. That's where we will begin. I would love to have you be a part of the show. The talk and text line is 608-321-1670. You can watch the live stream of the show if you'd like to see my mug, or more importantly, the mug of the very handsome and always well-groomed, well-dressed Jesse Temple. He'll be here at 5:35 to talk Badgers. We got a doozy. See, the problem with our conversations with Jesse is up until this week, the Badgers have been losing. And the conversation can get a little repetitive. Oh, Jesse, they didn't do this. And, turnovers. The O-line's not good enough, can't run the ball. And, they fold at the first sign of adversity. It got a little repetitive. Well, the Badgers lost in such a way on Saturday where we actually had something new and spicy, which I didn't think was possible. They haven't beat a Power 4 opponent in forever. Luke Fickell is still yet to beat a ranked opponent in his time in Madison. I didn't think there would be another Badgers loss this year. I'm so excited to break this one down with Jesse Temple. It's going to be great. But then the Badgers lost the way that they did on Saturday, and I'm like, all right, I'm all in. Jesse was great. Recorded with him earlier this afternoon. We also talked a little bit of Badgers basketball and actually a little volleyball because his Badger Bite this week at Badger Connect was a film study with Kelly Sheffield. Very interesting. And you learn a lot in just a couple of minutes watching that video. It's like, oh, I understand volleyball 5x, 10x. Now, unless you played or coached, but for the average Joe that just likes watching Wisconsin volleyball because it's a fun sport and it's entertaining, learned a ton. So we'll get to Jesse Temple in hour number 2. And that's a big reason why you want to watch live stream, because Jesse's always a nice piece of eye candy. The Wisco Sports Zone app, can't recommend it enough. Bill's live stream is on there. My live stream, all of our podcasts, Ebo's morning show. I was using it this morning to listen to. By the way, maybe one of a Mount Rushmore call to our network. Dave from Monona, generational Badgers call this morning. And I cut up a couple of the best comments from that. We'll get to that later on in the show. But you can listen to all of our shows in the camp and the swing, our podcasts as well. And of course, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the same places that the show's always live streamed. You can watch it there as well. I was annoyed last night at the Brewers loss. My team lost a playoff game. So naturally, that is going to annoy me. That's going to vex me. And I've been wearing that a little bit today. You know, the day after your team loses a big playoff game, you're dragging a little bit. So I'm just annoyed because my team lost. I'm selfishly annoyed. I'm a little extra annoyed because at least through the first at bat of last night's game, I thought I was going to be right. I don't really care about being right that much on this show because we don't really do predictions. I don't do picks. We don't do any betting stuff. I don't think that I'm some brilliant prognosticator. We watch the games and then we gather the next day to talk about the games. That's what I'm good at, is giving you a take or giving you a breakdown of what just happened. And then we take calls and we discuss it together. I don't do a lot of predictions, but I did say last night, I think the Brewers bats, I was not concerned about the Brewers bats last night. I thought they'd show up because I thought they would be so jacked up to face anybody that's not Blake Snell. My concern was more with Freddie Peralta in the pitching. And then Jackson Churio laces one. It was an opposite field home run, right? Off Yamamoto, the first pitch of the game. And Brian Anderson on the call goes, you got to think that the Brewers offense, I can't remember the exact wording, but he said ABS, anybody but Snell. And at the time I was listening. I didn't have the game. I had the game on my phone, but I was doing something. So I just had my headphones in. I was basically listening like it was the radio call. And I heard Brian Anderson say that. I said, Brian, that's what I said on the show. That was exactly my point. Anybody but Snell. You knew they'd be jacked up to hit against anybody but Snell. And here we go. The offenses arrived tonight. And then they didn't do dick the rest of the night. Crap. A little bit of a tease. I thought I was going to be able to victory lap something that I was actually right on tonight. Not quite. And the game just got worse and worse as it went along. They proceeded to hit like Vinny Capra for the next 8 2/3. Certainly Yamamoto won't pitch like Blake Snell did, we told ourselves stupidly. Snell was unbelievable. Yamamoto was very, very good. You know how sports radio does a blame pie? I think Cone Roller, who is an outstanding sports radio caller, but he also understands how sports radio works. He understands the bits, buy or sell, eye on the enemy, the 3 C's, which is one of my favorites, concerned, confident, curious. That's a good one. Blame pie. I believe a couple of weeks ago, he didn't know what to say about the Badgers' loss. I can't remember which one. It could be any of them. Who cares? There's plenty to choose from. And Cone said, Grant, I want to do a blame pie, but I'm just confused trying to figure out the recipe. You know what I mean? Blame pie. I'm trying to figure out maybe not how much blame. Maybe we're just doing a loss pie, a crisp even. It doesn't have to be a pie. Anything that's baked in a pan. It could be a sheet cake. It could be whatever. It could be a cobbler even. A blame cobbler. What percentage of the Brewers' struggles on offense the last 2 nights were because of Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto? And what percent of it was on the Brewers and their process at the plate? Because 5 hits through 2 games and mostly all ground balls and strikeouts cannot just be pitching. Like, the Brewers have to be complicit in that. I'm not saying that it's 80% the Brewers. I'm not saying that it was all the Brewers process, but some percent has to be on the Brewers hitters and their process or their preparation or their adjustments or lack thereof, as these games progressed. The Brewers have to be complicit in these last 2 losses. Now, game 1, I was willing to say, well, that's Blake Snell. You tip your cap. And if you remember the, again, always inspirational words of Christian Yelich, he said the same. Well, sometimes you tip your cap. Like, okay, well, that's easy to say when you're 0 for your last 17, but whatever, it's probably true. Blake Snell was brilliant. So I was willing to tip my cap and mostly just move on from game 1. And then it happened again last night, and I'm not willing to do it for 2 straight games. 5 hits in 2 games. Again, only ground balls and strikeouts. That can't just be Snell and Yamamoto. It just, I don't accept that reality. I can't. And you should neither, by the way. You should not watch your favorite baseball team hit that poorly or attempt to hit that poorly through 2 straight games and walk away saying, well, what are you going to do? Blake Snell's really good. Yamamoto's really good. They are really good, but that result is not acceptable in back-to-back nights. So again, I'm trying to figure out what percent is Blake Snell and Yamamoto and what percent is Brewers hitting. I'm willing to go like 60-40, 70-30. I'm not pulling it all on Brewers hitters, but some of it has to be on Brewers hitters or coaches or prepper or processor. They're not cheating hard enough. They're not stealing signs well enough. I don't know, but some percent has to be on the Brewers. I was reading Jack Stern, Brewer Fanatic, who's been on the show. He's an outstanding writer. And I'll read you a couple of the tidbits that he had today at Brewers Fanatic. Versus Snell, the Brewers chased 33% of out of the zone pitches and whiffed on 45% of their swings. They whiffed less against Yamamoto, but chased a whopping 40% of pitches outside of the zone. He also wrote a couple of good tidbits, and I was never a baseball player, but even I can wrap my Dumbo brain around this. Jack also described how they mistook a lot of curveballs for fastballs, especially early in counts. The Brewers have been behind in counts, both of these games, all 9 innings. But these high pitches that come in, and you think it's a fastball, so you think it's just going to continue to zip and it's going to be a high strike. You're not going to chase, but then it drops in for a called strike. And it was clear that last night a lot of Brewers hitters were mistaking curveballs for fastballs. They weren't getting a good read on it. They also chased, and this is again from Jack Stern, 52% of his splitters outside of the zone, meaning here comes a fastball, I'm going to rip, and then the splitter drops off the table and they're chasing. They're not chasing thinking the ball's going to be out of the zone. They're chasing because they think the fastball is coming right down the pipe, and then the splitter drops off the table. And again, credit to Yamamoto and his delivery and the way those pitches come out of his hand. But again, it can't just be, well, I mean, what do you want us to do? They're really good. Tip your cap. I don't accept that result in back-to-back games. You get a one-off, but it can't happen in back-to-back nights. And Murph and Yelich both talk specifically about this. You heard that in the intro. Jake Bauers actually had here we are talking about Jake Bauers in the NLCS in the year of our Lord 2025. Jake Bauers talking about the Dodgers staff and how they've been a little bit off balance. Not a little bit. They've been very off balance. Let me edit that wording.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are dialed in right now. Seems like you can go an entire game without seeing a pitch over the heart of the plate. So obviously it's tough. But that being said, we got to take it upon ourselves to try and do something to disrupt their timing and get them a little bit more uncomfortable on the mound.
That is correct. Again, I can't believe I'm playing a Jake Bauers soundbite on October 15th, the National League Championship Series. Here's Terang, who doesn't say much of anything. So anytime he says more than like 3 words, it's usually his version of insightful.
Yeah, they commanded the zone. He was throwing every pitch for a strike, and he did what he was supposed to do.
I'm not trying to make fun. He just doesn't have much to say. Like, Terang's not a loquacious lad, let's say. Brewers are 0 for 34 on swings versus non-fastballs so far. That's nice. You've yet to collect a hit on a breaking ball. That's pretty hard to believe. I don't think a single hitter has been confident on a single pitch they've seen through these last 2 games, except for the Churio solo shot, which conveniently was the first pitch of the game. What a tease. And I'll play that Christian Yelich soundbite in case you're feeling a little sleepy this afternoon. This should perk you up. This is from the intro. You heard it, but I'll replay it here.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to play better. You know, it's not ideal start to the series by any means. Like,
hardly.
It's not what you want to get off to, but
definitely not.
Just got to continue to battle and, you know, find a way to get the offense going. You know, I got to be better. We got to be better. Just facts, you know. So fly out tonight, take the off day tomorrow, and be ready to battle in game 3.
Thank you for describing your itinerary. Here's one more. This is Dave Roberts talking about a little eye from the enemy, not eye on the enemy, but a little eye from the enemy on these starters.
Well, I think if you look at the construction of our roster currently, you know, the strength is starting pitching. And, you know, when you can have your most talented pitchers get the most outs, then you're in a good spot. And right now, you know, all 4 of those guys are in a really good headspace. Physically, they're sound. And, you know, you feel good about those guys starting a game and pushing them, and they're prepared for this.
So just because Yamamoto and Snell obviously had a great game plan coming in, both of those guys, I believe, calling their own pitches. You can see the pitch comm on their belt. Both of those guys had a great game plan. They executed. I'm supposed to believe the Brewers are just helpless in that situation. All right, tip your cap. Sometimes you have nights like that. And again, I don't really want to hear that from Yelich because it's easy for that guy to say that. You know what I mean? Like, if I showed up late for work 3 straight weeks and my boss is like, hey man, what's going on? I'd be like, sometimes you have those days. It's like, I mean, yes, everyone does have those days. Everybody makes mistakes. but like not with this frequency for this duration, ideally. So yeah, you do have those days, and some days you tip your cap. I don't really want to hear it from Yelich. Sometimes you have games like that. Well, you've had like 18 or 19 of them in a row now, buddy. So I don't want to hear it from you. I refuse to believe the Brewers are just hopeless. On some level, again, I'll keep saying they're complicit. I don't know on what level. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't even know if it matters now, because now they're down 0-2, and I don't know if it is worth our time to decide. Well, now, and here's what they do in the next couple of games. I actually, as the day's gone along today, I tell you what, I'm not optimistic, but I'm creating an idea in my head of how this works. You got to get game 3. Duh. Let me put it this way. Here's how this works, or here's how this could work. The Brewers win game 3 by hook or by crook. If you cheat, if there's some sort of rain delay, I don't care. You can win the game 1-0 on a balk, which somehow Bryce Terang would find a way to mess up, make it out in that situation. I kid a little bit again. I don't hold it against him in game 1. I'm just pissy and I'm lashing out. Win game 3 any way that you possibly can. It can be the ugliest baseball game in the history of the world. You can use every pitcher on your roster. I don't care. Win game 3. And then it becomes a matter of game 4. And if the Brewers then could win game 4, they need to win the next 2 games. But I do think there's some style points that matter in situations like this. I remember, if you've been listening to the show this would have been 4 years ago now, more than 4 years ago. If you were a listener to the show when the Bucks were on their championship run, one of the things that I think I did get right, there's very few on the show, as I said a couple minutes ago, but one thing I said in the Nets game after game 3, it's like, okay, remember game 3, they won like 87-85 or something ridiculous. It was the ugliest basketball game I've ever watched, but they just needed to get a win, and they did. And then after that game, I said, not only is game 4 a must win, it's a must blowout. This is the high-level commentary that you have now come to expect from the show, obviously, 4 years later. But I said, you need to blow doors in game 4 and send a shockwave back through that Brooklyn locker room and said, what did we just do? We were up 2-0, and then we blew game 3. We easily could have had them. We just had to score 91 points. And then you blow their doors off in game 4, so it feels like, okay, well, all that work we did in game 1 and game 2, and to bring it back now to the Brewers, that start by Blake Snell and that start by Yamamoto, now it's all for naught. Because we lost game 3, which is no big deal, but then we got our doors blown in game 4, and it feels like the series is completely reset. And actually, the pressure at that point has now shifted back onto the Dodgers, because it's a best 2 out of 3, and 2 of the games would then be in Milwaukee, right? Because the format is 2-3-2, which can be advantageous or disadvantageous to either team. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the format on Twitter, which I find kind of funny. I don't really want to hear complaints about payroll, although eventually I'll complain about payroll. I definitely don't want to hear complaints about the format, but there are little angles and little advantages to be found in a 2-3-2. And I think if the Brewers are able to win these next 2, which is a massive undertaking, I know, but if you're able to win the next 2, the pressure is now back on LA, and you have 2 of those closing, best 2 out of 3 games at home. It's a massive mountain to climb, I know. But if they can win game 3, we have a series at least for another game. I'm not telling you that you should do backflips over this idea, but it's an idea, something to chew on. I'll take your calls next on the Brewers, 608-321-1670, and then we'll get to Vinny Rottino at 4:35.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoked. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
And when and just like the bottom line is, you got Yelich, which is otherwise known as pickle relish. Not one RBI from your. It's like Tucker. There's a door. Go at the door and shut the ass the way out of town. Yelich, give back your money and go at the door and shut the ass the way out of town.
Dave, I love you, buddy. Never change, all right?
But I am glad I haven't watched one inning. I don't care. But Cubs got beat. We sucked.
A little bit from Dave from Monona. Generational call this morning over the line. It was just after 8 o'clock. For those who missed it, I took the liberty of cutting some of my favorite moments. I was listening. I was at the gym. Everyone credit me for being at the gym. I was listening and I was laughing in the locker room. I can't believe some of the things that I'm hearing. Great Badgers commentary, but he did mention the Brewers. I make that a part of the show. Vinny Rottino going to be here in 10 or 12 minutes. FanDuel Sports Network and a member of the UWL Athletics Wall of Fame for what it's worth. I always want to give him credit, especially today on a WEAC Wednesday. Also, Joe Gow is on the Barstool Yak today. I don't know if that will make the show between now and 6 o'clock, but if we have an extra 2 minutes, I do have a take. So we'll see. But I want your Brewers thoughts first. 608-321-1670. Right to your phone calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant.
Howdy, Mike.
Coyote Mike.
What's up, Mike?
Grant, I was so tremendously disappointed last night. They looked like a bunch of posers out there. They really did.
Powders, too, by the end of the game.
Yeah. And
Yamamoto's throwing splitters. That's how they were swinging.
The only guy who looked like he was having fun was Joey Ortiz. He's the only one that had a little pep in his step. And then it's the first time I've ever seen Murphy look nervous.
Daunted, even?
In the dugout. Yes. Yeah. They showed, I think it was after the Dodgers scored the second run, and I think they showed him, and he was kind of fidgeting and pacing a little bit in the dugout, and his face just looked like, uh-oh. And he didn't get these guys up, and I don't know if it's his job to do that or not.
I think they were up, and then they watched Yamamoto for 2 or 3 innings, and then collectively they went, oh, crap, it's happening again. That's a very powerful dynamic in sports when a team goes, oh, man, it's happening again. And that has lots of different applications, but I think that was at play last night.
They were only competitive in 1 out of 18 innings the last 2 days.
Correct.
1.
Correct. And they didn't score in that. Well, they did score in that inning. They did in that 9th. I was going to say.
They did, yeah. And then with Yelich, what do you bench him? I almost think you do.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think the only way that you mount a comeback in the series is with Yelich swinging. I do think this is an instance where you have to go down with the ship, hoping that the ship starts to float.
last night they showed him, I think it was last at bat, they throw him a pitch down and low outside. He takes it, and then all the rest are pitches low and inside, and he's swinging in the dirt and swinging, and then he's out again.
Swinging.
I mean, God, he's got to figure it out. He just has to. That's when he should probably try to bunt. Just get on base, Christian, and get the ball rolling.
I'd be down. For bunts. We talked about this last night. I'd be down to try some bunts. I'll try anything. Swing the bat above your head.
That.
I don't care.
And you know what? I just want to. Dave did have an excellent call this morning. That was fabulous.
It was
that was really good,
unbelievable.
and he was right about the Badgers, and he was right about the Brewers.
He was unbelievable this morning, and I cut it up. We'll kind of mix it in throughout the show. Heidi, Mike, that's a great call. Yeah, Yelich, I think, was probably the most dramatic example of. Again, I gave you some stats from Jack Stern in the first segment, but something that he noted that he has the eye to see that I don't, because Jack played baseball and understands it 1,000 times better than I do. But I think a lot of Brewers thought that the splitter coming out of Yamamoto's hands, and a couple of them mentioned after the game, we saw a lot more splitters than we thought, or that we expected, or that we planned for. I don't know. Basically, they said, we saw more splitters than we thought, and it was clear that they mistook them for fastballs repeatedly. Because the Brewers don't chase. Like, even against good pitchers, they're able to have good plate and zone discipline. I don't think Brewers hitters individually took it upon themselves to swing and to expand the strike zone. I think they thought those splitters were fastballs at the bottom of the zone, so they jumped and attacked, and then those splitters, as they get to the plate, fall off the table, and all of a sudden Christian Yelich is struck out because he swung at multiple pitches that are at his toes. That's how you get there. And it did look mopey by the end of the night, but I think the very powerful dynamic is when a team collectively goes, oh boy, it's happening again. And that's an important dynamic to force on the opponent, and it's a dynamic that you do not want forced unto yourself. Because then you're in inning 5 and you're thinking, oh my God, we got to deal with this the second straight night. And that's not an attitude or an environment or just a general dynamic that's conducive to winning or hitting at a high level, which the Brewers clearly are incapable of doing right now. Let's take another call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, blame pie time. Where are we going?
Blame pie? I'm trying to figure out, we do need to tip the cap to the starting pitchers of LA. But it's not like 100%. Like, you can't just be hopeless. You can't just show up after the game and say, well, what do you want us to do? They were pitching well. Well, yeah, it's incumbent on the offense to deal with that the best you can. So I don't know if it's 70% Dodgers, 30% Brewers hitters. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I hear a lot about how the Brewers have just abandoned their approach at the plate. And, while that may be a little true, I mean, Yoshi was just peppering the strike zone yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know if there's much you can do to work an at bat when, the other guy is just dialed across from you.
They only whiffed. They whiffed less against Yamamoto. They chased 40% of pitches outside of the zone. And something that's even my dumb baseball brain can grab and can notice. How many times were these pitchers ahead 0-1, 0-2, 1-2? Like, all of these Brewers hitters were just perpetually down in the count.
Yeah, kind of the inverse Freddie Peralta.
Mm-hmm. Although I think, and shame on me, it's been 28 minutes and I haven't said this yet. I thought Freddie did his job last night. He could have been a little bit better, but if you would have told me last night at 4:30, you can get 5 2/3 and 3 earned against Freddie, I would have taken it. The offense just has to be better the night after getting basically shut out. I thought Freddie, for the most part, did his job, and you roll your eyes and it gets frustrating at times, but don't you kind of agree that you'd take that performance from Freddie in that spot?
Yeah, I thought he pitched, I was about to say, he was facing Muncy, the last batter of the game for him, and I was like, he gets this guy out, and great performance from Freddie. He did all you can ask, and then Muncy hitting that one out was just backbreaking. That's kind of when I threw in the towel, and I was like, this game's over.
Well, and a lot of fans at the stadium did as well. And there's so many tweets, and I got a DM last night. Maybe I'll read it later, but the crowd is dead and nobody wants to stand up and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not going to blame fans for this. You can't get 5 hits in 2 straight nights and be like, well, the fans didn't help us out. You guys can't make contact with the ball.
And these hits are like little 2-out dribblers, through the shift.
Yeah.
It's not like someone rocketed a double. It's just there's nothing to get excited about. Players don't look inspired. I think the team, quit a little bit last night, and let's just hope they get to LA. They get some nice warm sunshine, some street tacos. They see the beach.
Christian Yelich gets to go home. Maybe he'll be happy to be out there. I don't know. It's where he's from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anything to fix Yelich. I mean, that dude just looks mopey out there.
He looks
lost. He's got the 2013 Joel Stave yips.
Oh boy. Oh Lord. Well, I appreciate it, Cone. We're going to talk a little Badgers basketball in hour number 2. So, Cone, I know you appreciate that. I mean, you're telling me this guy sounds mopey? Come on.
Fly out tonight, take the off day tomorrow, and be ready to battle in game 3.
Ready to battle. I mean, sometimes it's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to play better.
You just got to play better, myself included.
It's not ideal start to the series by any means.
No, I thought it was fine. That's where I'd want to be.
It's not what you want to get off to. But
okay, well, maybe.
Just got to continue to battle and, find a way to get the offense going. I got to be better. We got to be better.
We got to be better.
Facts, So fly out tonight, take the off day tomorrow, and be ready to battle in game 3.
A couple of Brewers texts. Can we? I'm just gonna move past some of these texts. Spencer in Janesville says, "Man, those players' sound bites are ridiculous. Almost sounds like they're pouting." Oh, come on! I don't think it's pouting.
You're ready to battle in game 3.
You're ready to battle in game 3. Tony in Milwaukee says, "Great stat on the Brewers being 0-34 on non-fastballs. I struggle with the percentage breakdown of it. Is it more good Dodgers pitching or more Brewers hitting poorly?" I think it's more Dodgers pitching, but it has to be on the Brewers too. They're complicit here. I would obviously say it's Dodgers pitching, but there needs to be a better way to quantify this bad amount of hitting. The Dodgers haven't even been great offensively, but they have had more of a woodpecking approach than the Brewers so far. This text just says, bat Yelich 8th or 9th. Move up Ortiz. Screw it. I can't believe Coyote Mike's call. He's like, the only player who looked like they had any joy was Joey Ortiz. I'm like, I have not paid attention to such things, and it astounds me that jumped out to you, Mike, but I'm glad you noticed that. Johnny Driftless with the Badgers thought we can wrap up the segment with this. What's more likely to occur? Brewers win this series, Badgers beat, hell, even keep it close to Ohio State, maybe throw in the Packers winning the Super Bowl this year. I think it's more likely that the Brewers win this series, that the Badgers play any sort of competitive football versus Ohio State. And you can quote me on that, Johnny Driftless. Appreciate it. Rock and Rick just says Christian LaFleur. I mean, we got to be better,
It's not ideal start to the series by any means.
It was like watching. It was like watching a bus crash. Oh God, that's your leader. That's the heart and soul. I'm not trying to pick on him. We did this yesterday, all right. But it's pretty hard to talk about last night's game. It's pretty hard to talk about this series writ large so far without mentioning Christian Yelich a little bit. If you want Christian Yelich discourse, we heard a little sound from Dom Catronio, who did a great job adding to this conversation. It's in yesterday's podcast. You can go find it there. Vinny Rottino, the FanDuel Sports Network, UWL guy, perfect for WEAC Wednesday. We'll get a little technical with what the Brewers hitters were seeing, or what the Brewers hitters thought they were seeing against both Yamamoto and Snell, former player. Perfect guy to break it down. He'll join us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Jesse Temple will join us in an hour to talk Badgers. That Iowa loss was, well, that was something. We'll discuss that. A couple Badgers basketball points, a volleyball thing that I want to discuss with him as well. He's got a new Badger Bite Up with Kelly Sheffield at Badger Connect. Get back to your Brewers phone calls and whatever else you want to discuss. I think we've set our piece on the Brewers. We can reset that at 5 o'clock, or if you want to discuss the Packers or whatever else, we can do that as well at 5 o'clock. But right now, Vinny Rottino joins the show. I recorded him with a little bit earlier, so I'm going to press play on that now. I think we all understand how the world works. This was recorded about 2 hours ago, so I'm going to press play now. Here you go. Vinny Rottino is here. He joins us now, the FanDuel Sports Network in Wisconsin, the pre and the post. You hear him on games as well. And I always remind people of this, Vinny, a UWL Wall of Famer class. I believe I looked it up earlier today just to make sure I had it right. 2016, which was a loaded class, I'm sure. Thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you. How you been?
Yeah, I've been great. Thanks for having me on, as always, Grant.
Of course. I was reading Jack Stern earlier today, who does a really good job explaining how Brewers hitters kind of struggled versus Snell and Yamamoto the last two nights. Whether it's, they thought curveballs were fastballs and then they let them fall into the zone, or they thought a fastball was a splitter or vice versa. So as a former player, I was hoping that you could take us through the process of getting ready to face a pitcher and preparing for a pitcher, and then maybe getting up at the plate and dealing with seeing something that you didn't expect to see or something that you didn't prepare for.
Well, yeah, I mean, those two guys in particular, I don't know if we've seen better pitching performances all year against the Milwaukee Brewers. I guess Tarek Skubal notwithstanding earlier in the season for the Detroit Tigers. I mean, both guys were just totally locked in. The process that you go through is you just kind of know what the guy has. And if you faced him before, you kind of have a mental picture of what each pitch does when you're standing in the box. And then you look for a certain pitch in a certain location. Usually a hitter, what they'll try to do is they'll look fastball early in the count, and they'll look to drive it to the big part of the field. What that does is gets you and keeps you on time for the off-speed pitches. Now, what happened with both those guys is their fastball command was absolutely impeccable, which was surprising from Snell, first of all, because he has an 11% walk rate on the year. And he was just pinpointing command wherever he wanted, really all of his pitches, but really the fastball at 96, 97 miles per hour was setting everything else up, including that devastating changeup. For Yamamoto last night, I mean, he would get behind a guy 2-0. I remember, I think it was against Jake Bowers. He got behind him 2-0, and this was like in the 5th or the 6th inning. And then he painted a fastball at 95 miles per hour on the black away at the knees. Now, to prepare for a guy like that, you can prepare all day, but if he is commanding his pitches like both those guys were, it's going to be a long night. Now, that does say, usually what the Brewers have done, Grant, against pitchers that have been on in a certain outing, they've been able to foul off a lot of tough pitches and not put them in play weekly. And that's kind of what they did last night. I think it was a combination of both those guys being totally locked in Snell and Yamamoto, but then also the Brewers, I don't know if they were pressing a little bit at that point. As soon as Yamamoto started to settle into that start last night, I feel like they were pressing a little bit and kind of trying to do too much. And that creates a situation where you're putting pitchers' pitches in play weekly. We haven't seen that from the Brewers pretty much all season long.
Well, it probably doesn't help. I mean, they're only human. And if I was in that spot, I'd say, oh my God, we got to deal with this 2 nights in a row. You're telling me this guy is going to have his absolute best stuff and be locating his stuff like this. So I'm sure that was a part of it too. Talk about that human element when you're going up to the plate, knowing that nobody in front of you has done anything. Nobody behind you has done anything. Like they say, hitting is contagious. So I would imagine the inverse is true. Talk about what that feels like and how you have to combat that as a hitter and as a lineup, because we know the Brewers think of it as not just hitter v pitcher. It's 9 versus 1.
It's super insightful, Grant, because that's exactly what happens is you start to see your teammates, just kind of look off balance. You start to see the pitcher on the mound get totally in rhythm, totally confident. I think, was it the manager? I'm blanking on his name.
Dave Roberts?
Dave Roberts in the in-game interview, he said he looked like Snell was in a trance. And, where remember the movie For the Love of the Game, where Kevin Costner's character would say, clear the mechanism. Now, that's kind of not really what happens out there, but that exactly looked like what Blake Snell and Yamamoto were in that trance. They were totally not hearing anything that the crowd was doing, totally locked in the zone, whatever you want to call it. And when that happens, you see that and you sense that as an opposing batter. So it is a situation where all of a sudden you get up at the plate and you feel like you have to do a little bit extra, get out of your plan that you kind of implemented all season long, the pass the baton mentality where, if you're not going to get a good pitch to hit, you are going to go to battle mode with 2 strikes. And again, foul off tough pitches and do anything to get on base or have a 10 pitch at bat, right? Yeah. We didn't see that at all. And because that is the key to this series. I know the Brewers have a tough mountain to climb at this point, but the key to this series going forward is to get into that Dodgers bullpen and see if you can wreak havoc against some of those arms that have not performed well during the postseason. So that's really insightful, Grant. It doesn't help now that we see that the Brewers now have done really nothing offensively and do have that tough hill to climb, considering now that the Dodgers do have a couple more really good starting pitchers waiting in the wings here for games 3 and 4.
Well, maybe they're due. Maybe the next 2 guys, whether it's Glasnow or Ohtani, and I don't know how long Ohtani, I haven't followed him and his progression as a pitcher, so I don't know totally what to expect. And we got a couple of days until then. But if the Brewers are able, let's just say they win game 3, Vinny, and they do it ugly and it's not pretty and it's not confidence inducing, but it's a win. Don't you then put yourself in a spot in game 4 where if you can win game 4, like it's tied up and now you're in an awesome spot. I'm just trying to find, wrinkles or angles for optimism. And I certainly wouldn't pick the Brewers to come back. The numbers wouldn't be on their side. But I mean, consider how confident us Brewers fans felt after 2 games against the Cubs. And then how differently we felt just after those 1 and 2 losses. I don't know. Maybe it's copium. Maybe I'm coping, but I feel like they're a little closer than most Brewers fans would say today, right?
No, well, here's the thing. Here's the narrative that I'm telling myself, and I think a lot of the Brewers fans, a lot of optimistic Brewer fans who are trying to find some optimism are telling themselves is like, maybe this is the storybook, and this is chapter 3 right now of the storybook season of the magical Brewers season, right? That Brewers magic, Uke on our side. Maybe this is part of it. And to come back from a 2-0 deficit against the mighty Goliath Dodgers and win a couple of games, steal a couple of games in LA, what a story that would write, and then move on to the World Series potentially. It is an uphill climb, but again, maybe this is all part of it. It just as going up 2-0 against the Cubs and then looking like you were going to choke it away, right? And against the Chicago Cubs by losing 2 in Wrigley and then coming back with that magical Game 5. That was that was the best game I have ever seen in person. And that's why you hear my voice still hoarse, because I lost my voice from that Game 5 against the Cubs. So maybe, Grant, that this is how this story is going to be written. We're still not done. Yes, there's adversity. Yes, I am also feeling less optimistic about this season after these first 2 games.
It's hard not to.
In the way they lost. You wouldn't be human if if you didn't think that way right now, because just the way that the offense hadn't been performing against the Dodgers so far in this series. So something has to change. Yeah, you're right. Maybe they're due. Maybe they can steal. Game 3 obviously must win. So let's see them do that, and then we'll have another fun narrative going forward. But they got to win this next one.
What are you seeing? I don't want to pick on the guy because no one's hit the last 2 nights, but with Contreras or Churio, like they gave you moments against the Cubs, or Churio gave you a moment last night. It's one thing to have a rough 2 or 3 games, but it really at no point, other than that first inning against Boyd, has Yelich given them anything of substance with the bat. What do you see from him, and what do you imagine he's going through and thinking right now?
Oh, man. I mean, so first of all, Christian Yelich, he is one of the most, getting to know him a little bit. I played for the Marlins. I was in camp with him when he was a 21-year-old in the big leagues, right? And he is a very conscientious, very humble person. And I'm getting to know him a little bit more now that I'm on the broadcast team, talking to him a little bit in the clubhouse. He is a regular guy, believe it or not. I mean, he really is. He's a kind person. He's a humble person. And so when things don't go well for Christian Yelich at the plate, it wears on him a little bit, because he is such a team guy. And so you can see that from him pressing a little bit. Whereas like in contrast, not that Ryan Braun's not a kind person, he is. I'm saying, but he is an ultra confident, you could almost say arrogant at times, right? Yeah. But that you want your superstars to be that like that, because when they struggle, they're going to go ahead and shine in the biggest moments. Not that Christian Yelich isn't a superstar and he's not going to shine in the biggest moments. I just think when he struggles, it wears on him, and it compounds the struggles. We saw that for 3 years. Remember, Grant, 3 or 4 years, right? From years 2020 all the way until last year when he kind of figured it out again. So he's got to just find a spark. He's got to find one little spark. Maybe it's a blue pit. Maybe it's a mistake fastball down the middle that he's able to connect on that somehow clicks for him, because that's what it's going to take for Christian Yelich to kind of get out of this little funk that he's in. Because we haven't really seen him struggle ever since the beginning of the season. So I just think he's trying to do a little bit too much. He's trying to carry the team maybe a little bit too much, because he knows what's at stake and he wants it so bad for his team and for his guys. That's what's happening with Christian, I believe, right now. But don't give up on him, because if he starts to figure it out, he can carry this team, and all of a sudden you have a huge cog in the lineup with Christian Yelich slugging. So we need to see that, though. We definitely do need to see it if the Brewers are going to win.
It's good to hear that you've been able to get to know him a little bit better as a member of the broadcast team. I'd imagine he was very intimidated by you in Miami. Maybe he didn't want to say anything. Maybe he was worried to approach you. Do you think that was the dynamic down there?
No, I do not think so. No. I was a career minor leaguer. He was a budding superstar for sure.
Oh, budding superstar. What's that? Well, Vinny, I appreciate it. A Game 3 win would do a lot. Again, I don't think they're necessarily that far off. It's just that winning even one game feels like such a monumental task after the last 2 nights. So I appreciate your time helping us break this down. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, Grant. Anytime.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Meow. Meow. All right.
You ring, Dave from Monona.
let's bring some comments. Number one, people. It's people like RJ and Ebo. It's their fault. Corey, sorry, get off the fence. I know you just got to be a good tailor to fix those pants. You sit in that fence and don't go either way. It's people like you and Ebo and RJ. First of all, RJ goes to the game, spends his money. So guess what? Don't bitch because...
Dave, just to be clear, we're talking about Wisconsin football, correct?
Yes. Okay. Give up your tickets and stop going. I would like to see what never happened. First quarter, everybody gets up and they leave. The fans have the final say, people. We are the idiots. It doesn't matter who you bring in. You can fire Batgirl tomorrow, and you're going to have the same issue when you come in. But I like to see that Batgirl can learn a lot of respect with Dave Fernona. Not that it's worth 2 cents. At the end of the year, they say, bring all 100 people into the locker room and say, every one of you guys are gone. There's a door.
You're all
See you later. I bet you more fans would accept more of that. Now, I know Pete Monona wouldn't because there's too many white players. So no matter what they do, Pete Monona is going to be upset. You got McIntosh white, Alvarez white.
He's taking so many different turns.
He's still mad because Tucker, who did the secret microphone, didn't get the job, But people, let's be honest. The bottom line is, you got a talk show host here who thinks this is God's gift.
Me.
The 18-year-old co-ed.
Me.
I just wanted to learn. And the bottom line is, McIntosh,
Dave,
no more white players.
I never knew where this phone call was going to go, but it always surprises me. We love you, buddy.
White privilege.
That's Dave from Monona this morning. I did some good editing. I didn't do that much editing. That was oh my God. I can't believe Dave could call in to take a dump on the Packers or the Badgers or whatever, and he's still going to find a way to be like, well, in Ebo, you're the problem. And the best part of that call is Pete from Monona, who I love. His calls are often, I guess the timing is sometimes questioned. The timing and the topic is often questionable with Pete, but I do love him. I love how Pete is always sideswiped in every Dave call. Well, Pete from Monona wishes Alonzo Tucker, secret microphone would have got the job. And then he goes off on white privilege. The way that this phone call ends is unlike anything I've ever heard on a network. And I listen to a lot of Ebo's show, and trust me, those calls, I
just wanted to learn. And the bottom line is, McIntosh,
Dave,
no more white players.
I never knew where this phone call was going to go, but it always surprises me. We love you, buddy.
White privilege.
And then you hear the phone click.
White privilege.
In any event, we thank Vinny Rottino for his time. Wasn't that great? Getting a breakdown of, all right, so when you go into a game and you're expecting to face Yamamoto, here's the approach, here's what you're looking for. And then when it doesn't work, here's how it can go south, or here's how you can adjust. And I didn't really ask him. I don't think it's a question with an answer, and I don't even know that it's constructive, because if the Brewers lose game 3, it doesn't matter at all. It might not matter now. The series might already be over. But I am curious from a baseball perspective, or from the perspective of someone who plays or covers the team much more closely, or coaches or scouts or whatever. Like in a matchup like that, what percent of the Brewers being shut out or put in your shutout is the Dodgers starting pitcher being great, and what percentage is the Brewers, not doing their part? Because you don't have 5 hits across 2 games at home and not be complicit in some way. I'm not saying that it's all, well, Blake Snell wasn't that good. The Brewers just couldn't swing the bat. No. Blake Snell was outstanding. And so was Yamamoto. But the Brewers have to hold the bag a little bit on this. I just don't know to what end. I don't know. So I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. And it's probably a futile exercise, because the series, like I said, it might be over. Game 3, I would be very interested to see where it goes if the Brewers are just able to win.
White privilege.
White privilege. Oh my God.
White privilage.
He just said that because.
Dave,
no more white players.
I never knew where this phone call was going to go, but it always surprises me. We love you, buddy.
White privilege.
I don't know why he's sideswiping Ebo in this. Oh yeah, and by the way, while I'm here to talk about NIL, let me remind you that this is Ebo's fault too.
Let's be honest. The bottom line is, you got a talk show host here who thinks this is God's gift.
Me.
The 18-year-old co-ed.
Me.
Just an awe-inspiring call from Dave from Monona this morning. We will get back to the Brewers here. We've never really left the Brewers, but I'll reset some of my takes from last night. I would love to take more of your calls for those of you who haven't had a chance to join yet. We'll begin hour number 2 with that. And Jesse Temple will join us at 5:35 to talk about Badgers, Iowa. And as I said at the beginning of the show, the Badgers have been losing so much. It's like, oh, okay, so Jesse and I are going to break down another loss. And I'm trying to find, how can we make this interesting and new? This loss was so bad. This was juicy. I couldn't wait to talk to Jesse. I'm always excited to talk to Jesse, but especially this week, it's like, oh yeah, we can sink our teeth into this one. This is interesting. So we'll get a 2-minute break here. No need to switch us off. No need to leave and come back. It's 2 minutes. No commercials, no spot break. It's just the latest in Wisconsin sports, thanks to our sports director, Zach Heilprin. And we'll be right back with more Brewers commentary and your calls after this.
Tell me how.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Brewers are in Los Angeles. It's where they're going to take on the Dodgers tomorrow night in Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. Milwaukee is in a big hole after losing the first 2 games at home. They managed to score just 2 runs and had just 5 hits as LA's starting pitching dominated. Teams have come back from down 0-2 before. Christian Yelich says it's easy to say what needs to change for it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to play better. It's not an ideal start to the series by any means. It's not what you want to get off to, but just got to continue to battle and, find a way to get the offense going. I got to be better. We got to be better. Just facts, So fly out tonight, take the off day tomorrow, and be ready to battle in Game 3.
Again, it'll be Milwaukee and LA in Game 3 tomorrow. First pitch set for 5:08. Turning to the Bucks, they closed out the preseason last night against Oklahoma City. Now their focus will shift to the season opener. That comes next Wednesday at home against Washington. Milwaukee listed as 18-1 to win the Eastern Conference, 60-1 to win the NBA title.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Packers return to the practice field today to start getting ready for a trip to face Arizona on Sunday afternoon. Green Bay sitting in first place in the NFC North at 3-1-1, though all the teams in the division are above 500. Cardinals sitting at 2-4. Kick on Sundays at 3:25. And Wisconsin get to face off against number 1 Ohio State on Saturday afternoon at Camp Randall. Kick is set for 2:30. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to play better. It's not an ideal start to the series by any means. It's not what you want to get off to, but just got to continue to battle and, find a way to get the offense going. I got to be better. We got to be better. Just facts, So fly out tonight, take the off day tomorrow, and be ready to battle in Game 3.
Both those pitchers were as dominant as 2 pitchers have been. We chased way more than we've chased all year. We've been the best in baseball at not chasing. These pitchers brought out the worst in us.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
All right, hour number 2, white privilege. I was so excited to get to work today and pull that audio off the computer from the 8 o'clock hour, from hour number 3 of Over the Line this morning. Banger of a show. I tip my cap to Ebo and to everyone involved. What an artist. I'll reset my Brewers takes, and we got wide open phone lines. So if you have any Brewers commentary you'd like to share, whether it be about last night, their odds in Game 3, you can really connect games 1 and 2 now. So if we want to have a bigger picture discussion of this Brewers offense, the way that it stands up against elite pitching, to be fair, and I said this last night, I'll say it again today, I don't know that there are a ton of offenses that go up against Game 1 Blake Snell or Game 2 Yoshinobu Yamamoto and succeed. But I would have liked for the Brewers, I mean, it got 5 hits between 2 games, and very few of the balls actually left the outfield. A lot of ground outs and strikeouts. It's just not the recipe that got them here. And depending on how the next couple of games go, I'm willing to then admit, well, the recipe that got them here wasn't good enough to get them farther. That might be the discussion we've had. And that's a discussion that we've flirted with back since July, right? We talked about this July, August. I keep bringing this back up. It's all right, so when you get in a series against only the best teams who are using only their best arms, does this work? I don't know that it can work to the tune of a World Series, but it should be able to work better than this. And on some level, yes, you do have to tip your cap to Yamamoto and Snell, but I'm not tipping it well, shucks, what are you going to do? Just get shut out at home and have fans leave in the 7th inning because they're bored out of their skulls. I'm not going to tip my cap to that degree. But I understand there is some tipping of the cap. There's a little bit of that. Your texts and calls at 608-321-1670. Let's go to the phones. I won't make you wait. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
My name was just brought up, and Grant, if you don't understand the context of when I bring up issues, that's just because you are you are playing dumb. I don't get it because
Like what?
I mean, well, you always say that about me. I don't want to argue about that. I do want to say that about Dave. Well, first of all, I'm beginning to think that maybe Cone Roller is a better troll than Dave, no matter what that. And he talks about, I want them to have more black players. I just want to say, football and colleges were racially segregated until almost the 80s, especially in the South and the SEC. Though I don't know what their attitudes are down there race-wise, but I don't think they've actually changed that much. But they do love football and they want to win at football, so they decided to go whole hog recruiting African American players. Now, to take that as it is, but that's what I've seen. So, Dave from Monona, there's my answer to that. Otherwise, and when and the other thing about, the stuff that you don't get from me, but do you not get what Bill Michaels means when he talks about a city that has about 2 million of its population are black and brown people, and he calls the place a toilet. So maybe you don't get that either.
You can't align me on Bill's takes on Chicago. I like Chicago. I wouldn't live there, but that's because it's too big. It's not because of it's a toilet. It's just too big and it's far away from everything. Do you have, by the way, an Orlando Tucker take? Going back to when he allegedly, because I don't know if this was ever proven, but like he took that recording of a meeting and it leaked out and he apparently wanted to backdoor the job. Like, did you have a take on Orlando Tucker when that happened?
Wait a minute. Oh, is that the guy that got fired at Miami? I don't know who that is.
Orlando Tucker was an assistant under guard, and that was the year with like Reavers and that recording from the locker room came out. And Dave referenced it, but I don't know if he just connected you to that because that's what he does, or if you had a take on that.
I'll shoot my mouth off about things I know something about. I don't know anything about that. Okay. But all I'm saying is that the people in the South that where they don't want black people to vote, and they go out of their way to keep them from voting when it comes to football that they love. Look at their teams. That's all I got to say about Dave from Monona about that.
I love both of you so much. I appreciate it, Pete. And no, when I say the things that you bring up, I never have a problem with the things that you bring to the air. I don't have a problem with anything that anybody brings to the air. Despite what people say about me on the morning show, I cannot screen calls. And with about 99, 98% effectiveness, I get everybody on the air. There are days where we have guests and we have a lot going on, and one or two of you at like 5:55 might not be able to get on. And for that, I am sorry. But I think like 99, 98% of the people who call the show get on the air. And I have no way of stopping you from bringing up whatever you want. So Pete, no, I don't have a problem with your material. It's just you always seem to drop in out of left field on a day where everyone's lined up to like react to something big. And then you drop in and it's like, let's talk about the economics of baseball, which is fine. It's just, there's a rumor. Did Cone shout out Pete from Monona earlier this week? I feel like he did. He'll probably take that as a compliment, a bigger troll than Dave from Monona. He probably will find that to be more of a compliment than an insult, Pete. I'm sure he will enjoy that.
I just wanted to learn. And the bottom line is Ekatosh,
Dave,
all more white players.
I never knew where this phone call was going to go, but it always surprises me. We love you, buddy.
White privilege.
It's just an incredible call. I don't know what percent is Snell and Yamamoto, and I don't know what percent is Brewers hitters. And I wish I could have a better explanation of that. I know what I read from Jack Stern today at Brewers Fanatic, and that's the Brewers chased uncharacteristically. They chased an uncharacteristic amount of pitches outside of the zone. The Brewers chased 30%, 33% of out of the zone pitches versus Blake Snell, whiffed on 45%. And these are things that the Brewers like. These are the things that they built their offense around. We don't swing and miss. We don't chase bad pitches. Well, they've chased bad pitches or pitches outside the zone, and they've whiffed a lot. They whiffed less against Yamamoto last night than they did against Snell in game one, but they chased more outside of the zone last night. And I think that was, and again, I'm parroting Jack Stern. This is not something that I watched in my film study. This is something, and by the way, I'm allowed to do this. I'm allowed to read the wise words of our established Brewers beat members and give them credit for the things that they've shared on air. And you should support Jack. I've said that. His podcast with Spencer is awesome, and his writing is, I think, some of the best we have on the Brewers beat, especially if you want heady stuff on pitch selection, pitch mix, arm slot, all that type of stuff. I think they thought that a lot of Yamamoto's curveballs were fastballs. So they see this pitch coming in at chest high or neck high, and they expect it to stay there, and they don't want to chase fastball out of the zone, and then the curveball drops off the table, and it's a strike. And I think they thought a lot of splitters that were coming in at the bottom of the zone were fastballs. They swing, and then the splitter drops off the table. It's down at their ankles, and that Christian Yelich is, hacking like he's trying to get out of the sand trap. So I think it was the inability to differentiate pitches, and some of it is like bat-to-ball skills. Those have disappeared a little bit in these last two games. And it's harder to put the bat on the ball when you think you're swinging at one thing and you're actually swinging at another. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not just going to tip my cap and be like, what are you going to do? Well, you got to do something more than you did. 5 hits across 2 games at home in a series with an opportunity to go to the World Series is not acceptable. I'm not going to accept that. Well, tip your cap. Well, yeah. You have good pitchers too. Team won 97 games. For Pete's sake. Pete Monona. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
It's Darnell the Chump.
Hey, Darnell, what's going on? Did you hear, you're an over-the-line listener. Did you hear the ruckus with Dave this morning?
I did not, so I don't know exactly what
that's okay.
What the deal is there. But okay. So I was going to comment on there's a lot of discourse, Twitter today, last night, talking about the Brooklyn Nets Bucks series from 21 and the similarities to that.
Okay.
How, they went down 0-2, and in the second game it was a blowout, and, and Bucks fandom kind of felt like that was a very, very much a low point, and then they won it in 7, right?
Yep.
And I would just like to say that these are not even close to the same scenarios, much less the same sport, but in one case you have a top 7, top 8 player of all time on your team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you go down, and then he carries your team to a victory.
Okay.
In this case, this is not Christian Yelich is not Giannis. He's not going to put the team on his back.
Pickle
and
relish.
Go for 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's comparing apples to oranges, and I just think it's kind of a. Yes, they're down 2-0. That's where the similarities end, I think, for me.
Well, it's something, It's different sports, so the similarities are going to be limited. My point is, if you just find put it this way, Darnell, you find any way by hook or by crook to win game 3, you have an opportunity to legit make it a series in game 4. Right? Is that a better framing? Absolutely. Maybe I should put it that way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I don't mean to be doom and gloom. I don't want to be doom and gloom. It's just that what I've seen, and then on top of what I saw on the field, but just the people that were at the game just didn't seem like they thought there was any chance. Like that was the deadest I've seen Miller Park like all season.
Yeah, well, they have eyes connected to their brains. They were correct in that They had no chance.
And they were looking at that and saying, yeah, we are absolutely overmatched. And that's what it looked like. But that's what happens when, you guess wrong on every single first pitch with the exception of the first pitch of the game. You know what I mean? And you look foolish. And that's kind of how the Brewers just looked foolish yesterday. And you tip your cap, like you said, but at the same time, like, where's what we saw all year, right? Going back to the beginning of May.
Only so much tap.
Where was that?
Only so much cap tipping. A little bit. A little tip, not too much. I don't want to be tipping too much today, and I think we agree. I don't know, man. Like, their play style should be able to work better even against good pitchers. Because we saw it work against Skeens. It worked against Yamamoto before. It didn't work that well against Crochet. In fact, Jackson Churio hit a first pitch home run, and then they won that game 1-0. So maybe Crochet is... That might be a bad example, but it's worked against other stud pitchers throughout the regular season for whatever that's worth. Obviously not much in these last 2 games.
Well, and one last little point. I think that if the Brewers are able to get rid of the Cubs in game 3, which was a very winnable game, we're having completely different conversations because they would have been able to set up their pitching just like the Dodgers did. They would have been able to set up basically everything they wanted to do from a pitching standpoint because they would have had 5 days to get themselves ready. So that part of that is like, yep, you got to take care of business the way the Dodgers did against the Phillies. And when you don't, you pay the price in games 1 and 2 of, a 7-game series, which just kind of stinks, but it's the cards, the hand that you've been dealt, and you're just going to have to play it. So
you got to know when to hold them, fold them, et cetera. Darnell, I appreciate that. That's a good call. So I hadn't thought about these first 2 games through the lens of the previous series, right? To Darnell's point, had the Brewers taken care of the Cubs in 3 games, how this might look differently. Excuse me. Sorry, I've been ripping Diet Coke. I got to be here for Bill's Huddle. I've shifted all of my food and beverage consumption like forward 2 hours. Normally I have my Diet Coke at 2:15. Today I had it in the last hour. Sorry, I got the hiccups. I hadn't thought about this series, these first 2 games, through the lens of the Cubs series. The issue hasn't been pitching. I think the pitching's been outstanding, and they've been up against it a little bit. Abner Uribe is working a ton of innings. Ashby's throwing, for him, a lot of innings. He's not eating 3 or 4 innings at a pop, but he's appearing a lot, and he's being asked to open games, which is very difficult when the top of the lineup is, Michael Busch, Nico Horner, and I can't remember who's hitting third for the Cubs. And then obviously with the Dodgers, you run the gambit of who's up there, Ohtani, and is it Betts, Freeman, or someone else is hitting third? Maybe Teoscar Hernandez. I can't remember. They're all stud. The lineup top to bottom is amazing. It doesn't really matter. I actually think the pitchers have held up their end of the battle. And when you talk about rest days or days off, I think it's more of a conversation about pitching. And the pitching the last 2 nights really hasn't been the problem at all. In fact, I thought Freddie Peralta did the deed last night. I know he ended with that Max Muncy home run, which is the most Freddie Peralta thing. It's almost unbelievable. It's unbelievable how Freddie Peralta that is. To be 1 pitch away from getting out of an outing, going 6, only giving up 2 earned runs, that would have been outstanding. He was up 3 runs in 5 2/3. Whatever, man. Like, that's still good enough. I'm not going to sit here and complain about Freddie Peralta today. I just think the pitching hasn't been the issue. So I would love to be able to go back and say, well, had the Brewers beat the Cubs in 3, then they get the rest days. But for me, rest days have more to do with pitching. And they already have days off baked in, way more days off than you would normally get during the regular season. So this team should still be, offensively at least, more rested than they usually would be. I just don't know that I don't know that would have made a big difference. Maybe more time to prepare for the Dodgers, more time for the hitters to relax a little bit. But after the last 2 nights, I don't know that I saw enough, or I don't know that I could squint and close my eyes and see an alternate universe where a rested Brewers offense does better. I don't know, but it's an interesting exercise at the very least. I appreciate the call, Darnell. We're going to take a break, come back. Couple more minutes on the other side. If you want to jump in and talk Brewers, I can mix in a Packers thought or two as we have the injury report from earlier today, which I find very interesting. Some notable guys coming back and some notable guys remaining injured. So we'll get to that. And also Jesse Temple will be here at 5:35 to talk Badgers.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, right back at it. I got some Packers injury updates I want to get to in a few minutes, but one more Brewers item or two. And if you want to join in, wide open phone lines won't make you wait. We can be real quick about it. 608-321-1670. Here's Pat Murphy at his press conference last night. I wanted to play this because I think it is thoughtful and insightful. This is Murph talking about Christian Yelich. You hear the question from our friend Kurt Hogue.
Murph, with Yelich, I think he's 0 for his last 17 now since game 3. What do you got to do to get him going again with how important he is to the whole unit?
Yelly's a 12-year veteran. He knows how to play this game. He's getting pitched really, really tough. They're very aware of his abilities. Hit 29 homers this year. Drove in over 100 runs. That's a really small sample size. I know it's critical because it's now, but I'm not worried that Yelly won't respond.
Okay, thanks, Murph.
Thank you, guys.
See you in
17 at bats is not that small of a sample size in the grand scheme of baseball, which, their season is 5 months long. Like, yeah, I guess it's a relatively small sample, but we're not talking about 5 at bats. We're talking about 17, and 17 at bats is plenty of at bats to either decide a series for better or worse. So to say, 17, that's a really small sample. Relatively, yes, but for the purposes of this conversation, no. I also, this comment, and we heard a little bit of this from Dom Catronio yesterday, I also don't love this.
He knows how to play this game. He's getting pitched really, really tough. They're very aware of his abilities.
He's getting pitched really, really tough. This is what Dom told us yesterday, or the audio that I played from Dom yesterday. He wasn't on the show, although I hope to get Dom on soon. The idea that opposing pitchers are bearing down that much more to face Yelich is an idea that I just don't really buy. And I understand that in the playoffs, managers make certain decisions or adjust their pitching lineup and the way they deploy their pitchers to face righty lefties in a way that doesn't happen in the regular season. Yeah. I don't care if Christian Yelich faces a lefty every single time he hits. He's 0 for his last 17. I just need a little bit more. Here's Dom Catronio. I think it's in the middle of this cut. This is kind of that same idea.
Did not participate and didn't get one in the NLDS either. So when you look at Yelly this postseason, he's now 5 for 22. That's a 227, but a 346 on base. He's got 4 walks and 4 strikeouts and 1 double. What I see with Yelich and what's going to be the theme throughout the postseason, he's the focal point. He is going to be the guy that teams focus on and say, you're best against that best. Notice how the Brewers are always going to be planning for Shohei Ohtani, intentionally walking him, having a lefty ready. Koenig was up multiple times getting ready for Ohtani. So the point being, that is Yelich's role on this Brewers scouting report of you're the guy that they're going to be focused on and get the toughest stuff. So it's yes, there's no power. Yes, there's no slug nor an RBI.
See, that's the thing. There's no power, there's no slug, there's no RBIs. What? So walks? Walks are good. Brewers could certainly use some walks right now. But that's what I want from Joey Ortiz. Remember last week when we were talking during the Cubs series, I'm like, Joey Ortiz, the best compliment that I could have given him after those first 2 or 3 games, the first of those they won, the first 2 of them, I said, he's a good 9-hitter. That's what a 9-hitter does, is occasionally work some walks. Or hit singles or just, do little scrappy things to help your team win. I guess I grade Yelich on a different curve. And Dom is telling me that I shouldn't. And Pat Murphy's saying, they're pitching him tough. And they're not trying to everyone else. they're not pitching Contreras tough and Churio tough. They would be stupid not to. Those guys have proven to be better, much better, especially in the postseason. So a little bit of follow-up on our Christian Yelich discussion yesterday. A Packers injury report update for those of you who may have missed it earlier. Dontavian Wicks back at practice. Anthony Belton back at practice, which is big for their depth. But now I'm not really sure where we stand with Zach Tom. He did not practice today. Neither did Lucas Van Ness, nor Devontae Wyatt. Matt LaFleur did say Devontae Wyatt's getting closer. Something I need to see from this Packers defense and this defensive front, like Devontae Wyatt cannot be the linchpin between that front being good and awful, or good and bad. I don't know if they've been awful, but there should not be that precipitous of a drop-off when Devontae Wyatt gets hurt. I understand he's a good player. No doubt better with him out there. But you have Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons is your bookend, Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker, and then a rotation of guys who are fine along the interior, right? That unit needs to be better than they've been without Devontae Wyatt. Now, if Micah Parsons goes out, well, obviously that's going to change things dramatically. Of course. Devontae Wyatt missing a little time should not completely shoot to heck the performance of that defensive front, especially because he's missed so much time. That's really been the only issue throughout his career is opportunities and injuries. He's been behind Kenny Clark, or he's been behind, Colby Wooden or other guys, TJ Slayton when he was here. He's either stashed behind somebody or he's been hurt or both. That's kind of been his story so far. It would be, and these two very different quality players, obviously, but it would be like if the offense came to a screeching halt when Luke Musgrave got hurt, Now, Luke Musgrave is not a fifth of the player that Devontae Wyatt is. But Devontae Wyatt, and Luke Musgrave, but I meant Luke Musgrave, they missed a lot of time. So that's just something you kind of have to bake in. I need to see them be a little bit better. I need to see them be able to absorb an absence from Devontae Wyatt because he's absent quite a bit. Brandon McManus also didn't practice today. I don't know if he thinks he's going to be able to kick this Havrasek fella. I mean, he did good. So if you don't want to rush Brandon McManus back, I guess you don't have to. Again, my stance with injuries is wait until they're medically cleared and then bring them back. It's not a matter of, well, we got a certain opponent this weekend. Like, no, when they're medically cleared, bring them back. And that's why I don't understand what's going on with Zach Tom. I think I mentioned this yesterday. Bill Huber reported, and other beat reporters have shared, I think more anecdotally, that Zach Tom was in a ton of pain on Sunday. Bill Huber, in writing, reported that Zach Tom said that he mostly blacked out for the second half. He was in so much pain. Mike Clemens kind of talked about this last night too. I just don't understand what they're doing there. He's their franchise right tackle. They just paid a bunch of money in his prime, and they're letting him play through an oblique injury, and an oblique injury that happened in September. Like, if you just IR him for the minimum stint for 4 weeks, like, I'm not saying he'd be perfectly healthy right now, but I think he'd be in a much better spot. Instead, you bring him back too early, then he misses a game. Then you bring him back, and he blacks out. It hurts so much, and now he's not practicing. I don't know, man. Injuries happen, but as I've said with the Brewers too, what I don't understand or what I don't tolerate is just a scattergun approach to handling injuries. Like, injuries more than anything else, you need to have a clear-cut plan, a definitive plan on when this player is supposed to return, what boxes need to be checked, what we need to do, A, B, and C. And with the Brewers, it hasn't really always felt like they've operated that way. You need conviction, right? You need to be convicted in how you handle player injuries. You need to be confident. And if the player comes back and gets hurt after all those boxes have been checked, well, guess what? It's sports. Sometimes that happens. But this 1 foot in, 1 foot out business, I'm just not a fan, let's say. A couple of texts here. One from Andrew in La Crosse. Thoughts on the 2-3-2 format for baseball? Feels like it gives the Brewers no shot to come back in the series, although I think they're already dead. I don't know, man. I don't know. 2-3-2, 2-2-1-1-1. There's advantages and disadvantages. I think 2-3-2 can be an advantage for a team that can go on the road and win a couple games, but then win your home games. You know what I mean? If you don't want that advantage to go to the Dodgers, then win your home games. The bummer is, and the problem with a 2-3-2 is if the road team even steals one of the first two, they have an opportunity to close the series out at home, which doesn't feel ideal. But also, man, I don't know. It's hard for me to watch the games the last 2 nights and say, like, what we need to talk about is the format. Now, if the Brewers can go into LA and win 2 of 3, then 2 of the final 3 are in Milwaukee, and it's a brand new series. But again, you have to win some games for any of this to matter, and they haven't yet. So none of this has mattered. Jared in DeForest says the only thing we can hope for is the fact that baseball is the flukiest of the major sports. See game 1, we were 1 inch away from a tie game after being dominated for the whole game. Who knows how the game ends if we were tied in the 9th? Series not virtually over yet, but it probably is if we play the same way we have been in game 3. Yes, I would agree with that. Game 3, and this is the best way that I can frame it. I wouldn't even say this is optimistic. I wouldn't even say this is cope. This is just a reality. If you win game 3, I'm talking about the Brewers. If the Brewers win game 3, they give themselves an opportunity to make it a series in game 4. And then you still need to beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3 times, but you make it a new series. You shift the pressure back onto the opponent and you retake home field advantage. A lot harder done than said. A lot easier said than done is how most normal people string those words together. I don't know why I went the other way around. It's a lot easier said than done. But if you just win game 3, then we look to game 4 as an opportunity to make it a brand new series. I would enjoy that personally. I would like to see the Brewers not go quietly into the night the way they have the last 2 games. But we'll see. It all starts with winning game 3. That'll be tomorrow afternoon during the show. Perfect. That'll be great. Jesse Temple, Badger Connect, the camp, the swing joins us next. We'll start with the Iowa game and go from there.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Jesse. Jesse. Hey, Jesse. 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 Jesse.
Jesse Temple, Badger Connect. It's one of my favorite 15-minute stretches of the week. I don't know why I broke it down like that. That would be a good power ranking. Your favorite 15-minute stretches of the week. Monday morning dump after arriving to work. Yeah, sorry, Ewo, I gotta go take a dump. Let me put it this way. Let me rewind. I love talking to Jesse Temple, and we've talked a lot about Badger losses, and it started to get boring, not because Jesse is boring, but because what am I supposed to ask him week after week? And then Wisconsin lost in such a catastrophic way. It's like, yeah, we've been talking about losses, but not ones that are this bad. So this almost feels like brand new material. Here's my conversation with Jesse that I recorded earlier today. All right, Jesse Temple is here, his weekly visit, Badger Connect, and you hear him on the camp and the swing, a new episode out this week. I haven't dove in yet, but I'm very excited to. And you get your Badgers basketball covered. That's nearing the start of that season as well. Jesse, what do you want to talk about? What should we discuss today? Anything happened this weekend?
What do I want to talk about? I don't know if I especially want to talk about football, but it is top of mind for everybody else. So let's dive right in, Grant. What do you say?
Yes, let's start there. I remember on Monday's show, on my show on Monday, I went back and I cut the piece of sound that you gave us last week when I asked you to emphasize this game and make it clear to the audience and everyone listening why this game is important and the way the program has built it up. And you did a great job doing that. And then after you gave that, you gave a little bit of commentary about, and I think they will show up. And I think, I don't know that you were predicting a win, but based on what you said last week, I assume you were slightly surprised at what you saw on Saturday night.
I'd like to say I'm surprised. Nothing surprises me. I thought Iowa would win. I picked Iowa to win by a field goal because I thought you spent your entire offseason focusing on this game. You changed your defensive front because you gave up 329 yards rushing a year ago. So you got bigger, you got more depth. Every offseason workout focused on the number 42 because Wisconsin lost 42-10 in Iowa City. They are going to show up, even if they're not a great team, which is very clear. They'll make it a game. And you know what? It was 21-0, or it was 17-0. I get all the scores mixed up. With 90 seconds left in the first quarter, it was 23-0 at halftime. And as I wrote in my story off the game, I consider this to be the most indefensible performance of the Luke Fickell era. And that's saying something because this is the 9th embarrassing loss, but this is the one that you pinned your entire offseason on, that something was going to be different, and you were just as poor.
So there's a million things I want to ask you. It's funny because I was watching the Brewer game on Saturday night, and I missed the start of the Badger game. I was intended to turn it on, and I missed the start. And I was watching the Brewer game with some people, and I said, hey, what's the Badger score? What's the score? Because I did it on my phone. And they said 17-0 at the end of the first quarter. I said, oh, okay. So it's going to be that game. It's going to be the thing that you kind of described as the thing that couldn't happen. And you and Zach did a great job describing the ramifications for this. Zach really went on this on the camp. He said, I don't know what Luke Fickell has left. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to beat up on the guy personally. I just don't know how you can have that result in that game against that program that you built your offseason around and then have anything left. You know what I mean? So talk about that the best you can.
I mean, that's a reasonable perspective. Zach was definitely fired up after that Iowa loss because we've seen this product so frequently. This is the 10th loss since last season that Wisconsin has had by at least 14 points. That's mind-blowing. They've lost 8 straight games against Big Ten opponents. They've lost 9 straight games against Power 4 opponents. And they're just not competitive. And I can't believe it, really. I mean, I can because I've seen it now for a couple of seasons. But when you consider what Wisconsin football was, and even what they were when this change was made, Wisconsin was a mediocre team, but they weren't a atrocious football team. And that's frankly what they are right now. And to the point about what do they have left, they're about to go play the #1 team in the country in Ohio State that has just been housing teams. And then they've got to go on the road and play Oregon, which is another presumably college football playoff team that just lost to an Indiana team that is undefeated. They've got the bye, their second bye, and they still have to play that Indiana team, Illinois, Washington, which is a very good team this year, and Minnesota at the end of the regular season. Those 6 teams are a combined 31-6 this season. So it's hard for me to see the road getting any smoother here. And I just don't really know how you come back from what you just did against Iowa. And I do wonder at a certain point whether these players kind of tune out, because whatever message Luke has tried, it hasn't worked. And none of this has worked to the level that anybody thought was what it was going to be when Luke got hired, including certainly Luke. I mean, he thought he was going to come in here and they were going to win right away, and it just has not happened.
So you and Zach talked about this on the camp as well, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but something that's come up on my show this week is the idea or the reality of when McIntosh and Fickell first came together, let's say, when this hire first happened. Was there some sort of a fundamental misunderstanding from both sides about what they were getting into? Did McIntosh maybe not fully grasp what or who he was hiring, and did Luke Fickell maybe not understand what he was getting himself into? There seemed to be a fundamental misunderstanding of both parties coming into this now looking back.
So if you go back to the hiring, we thought it was a great hire, understandably so. I think if you're doing vetting and you're Chris McIntosh, look at Luke Fickell's resume. Look what he just did at Cincinnati in 7 years. He turned that program around, and he's the only coach from a non-Power 4 program to lead a team to the college football playoff. That's amazing. And there were multiple schools that wanted him, certainly in the previous year, but he was worrying about leading his team into the playoff against Alabama, so he didn't take those jobs. So it wasn't just Wisconsin pursuing him. If you just look at the resume, you say wow, that's a home run hire. This is a really big deal for Wisconsin. He elevated that program. And if you can do it at Cincinnati, where you don't have all the resources, what can you do at a place like Wisconsin when you have more resources? I think the thing now in hindsight that you have to take into account, though, is the lack of knowledge that Luke had with Wisconsin's program. And Luke talked at the time he was hired about his respect for Wisconsin and perhaps what he believed was his knowledge of the culture. But all of that was from afar. He certainly wasn't paying attention to Wisconsin when he was at Cincinnati, and when he was at Ohio State, it was 7 years earlier. And I think we are seeing, and maybe this is sort of part 2, because it happened a little bit in the Gary Anderson era, though Gary went 19-7 in 2 years. There are certain things that are unique to Wisconsin's program that you have to understand. And I know Luke shot his shot and he brought in Phil Longo, and that seemed exciting, and it was absolutely a flop. And now they're just reeling from a bunch of different issues. But I think there's something to be said for bringing somebody in who doesn't necessarily understand what Wisconsin is about. And then there's a feeling out process and you're kind of behind the 8 ball. And I would also say the evolving nature of college football has made it harder for Wisconsin. And Luke has said from the start, there's a mountain to climb. We know what we're getting into, and that's fine. But the schedule is as hard as it's ever been. And as Luke talked about on Monday, or maybe it was last week, he feels like there's been incremental progress in certain areas positionally in terms of talent at Wisconsin, but a whole hell of a lot of incremental progress from these other programs. They've all seemingly gotten better, and Wisconsin has continued to fall.
Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect in the camp. There's one specific thing that I missed on Saturday that's very, very micro that I want to ask you about, but you're cooking on the macro stuff right now. So one more thing. This came up on my show on Monday and Tuesday. Everyone wants Fickell fired, and it feels inevitable at some point, whenever, just because there was so much riding on this Iowa game and it went so badly. And to you and Zach, to what you guys said and what you just communicated, I just don't know what he has left. But then the question becomes does Chris McIntosh get to make the decision? Do they put a general manager in a position to do that? Does someone else step in? And then the big picture question, I don't know how to answer this. I just posed the question, is there investment at the highest levels of the university? where they've decided this matters to us and we're going to put the investment and we're going to do the things necessary. I think that's something that Badgers fans are concerned about. I've seen a lot of that this week, and I'm sure you have too.
When you're asking the question about investment, are you specifically asking a question about NIL and how many dollars are related to this? Because I'd say they invested a whole hell of a lot in finding a head coach, because his average salary for 7 years was $7.8 million, which was a couple million more than Paul Chryst was making. So, I mean, Donna Shalala showed this 30, 35 years ago, and Zach mentioned this on the show, but the importance of the football program and the athletics programs being the so-called front porch to your university. Well, football carries the entire program here on its back, really, in terms of the financial component. And the last thing you need is for anger to turn to apathy and for people to just give up on the football program. Now, I think some would come back depending on who they hire and the excitement that's generated. But in terms of how this looks, because it does at this point feel almost like inevitable, feels like a strong word. But again, tell me how it's going to get better in the foreseeable future. And at a certain point, you've got to make a decision on what that looks like and who the coach is. I don't know what that looks like, but there are just it's a whole mountain of issues right now in terms of who's in charge of what and how you make these decisions moving forward.
Yeah. And you ask, are you talking about investment or, literal monetary investment? I guess one thing leads to the next, right? Like, you can't be invested and bought in without the money on some level. I'm just so fascinated to see how this plays out. One thing, because here's how this came to be. So I showed up to work yesterday and I was on Twitter and I saw Colton Bartholomew tweet, "We speak with Badgers players soon. Request to speak with Billy Edwards, injured, and linebacker is it Tyrese Fearbry? Parentheses, yes. You know why we're denied." And I missed the beginning of this game. I said, "Oh, what happened there?" So I looked it up, and then I saw what happened at the beginning of the game. So I wanted to ask you about that. If there is a worse omen for how a game is going to go, I could not come up with one. So talk about what you guys witnessed and what you were saying before the game even started.
I believe my opening sentence off my game story was the most indefensible performance of the Luke Fickell era began with an inexplicably boneheaded 15-yard penalty, which essentially summed up what Wisconsin football is right now. Yeah, it's absurd. It's preposterous. And bonehead is the word that Luke Fickell used after the game for the play. You could see Luke talking to him. Fearbry was obviously fired up, but I have no idea why you would go to midfield and start jawing at the Iowa players. And the referee was right there. Fickell has talked about competitive spirit, but he said that's not the kind of competitive spirit we're talking about. On the other topic that you're referencing in terms of players being made available, that is part of what you experience when you cover a college program. In general, reporters are sort of, for lack of a better way to put it, at the mercy of who the sports information people and the coaches choose to make available. And Billy Edwards Jr. is somebody that was requested this week, and for understandable reasons, it's not a great time. He's injured. Yeah. But the other two quarterbacks, I think that's an interesting choice. Obviously, Luke said there's going to be an ongoing competition this week, but they've made quarterbacks available every week. It's just that perhaps this is one where they don't want to divulge anything or necessarily know who the starter is on a Tuesday. But that is part of what it's like covering a team.
It's just funny how it's like the way that Colton tweeted is like, well, everyone knows why he's not available. I'm like, oh, I actually missed this. What happened? And then looking back and figuring that out, reverse engineering it, because I was watching the Brewers game when this game started on Saturday. It made me laugh, even though it's not funny. Although sometimes you have to laugh to keep from being sad. Let's do a couple minutes on Badgers basketball. You guys talk with Brad Davison on the swing, and I want people to go listen to that. But give us a little tease or a little taste of his new role that came together very quickly, as you described last week, and what he's up to so far.
Well, he's really hit the ground running because he had 3 flights from where he was in Spain to get to Madison. He's got a almost 1-year-old daughter and his wife, and both of them gave up their professional playing careers to pursue this. This has been Brad's dream since he was really a high school freshman. He wanted to get into college coaching. It was just a matter of when, not if. And for Greg Gard to make the call was kind of all Brad needed to hear, even though he was about to play his season opener in his 4th year professionally. So he played in that game, and then that was it. He's retired, and I think it's a really good move for Wisconsin. He's certainly going to do it in his own way. Kirk Penny brought some X's and O's and really was instrumental in these changes we've seen offensively. I think Brad, he talked about his number one priority is developing relationships with players. It almost kind of sounds a bit like a liaison of sorts, that you can communicate with these guys because you were just in their shoes 3 years ago. His last season was 2022. And so he totally gets what they're going through, but also learning the nuances and intricacies of being a coach. I think he's going to help out in a variety of ways. And he wants to get as many reps on the scout team as he can because he still has that competitive fire.
Well, he was just competing, right? He was just playing basketball professionally. So I'm sure he's going to get a kick out of that. And lastly, you have a Badgers Bite Out with Kelly Sheffield. How much did you learn about the sport of volleyball and the way that it's played? I bet.
Oh, man, it was
10
awesome.
minutes with him, I would have like triple or quadrupled my knowledge on the sport.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite Badger Bites. As I've said before, this is part of what we do at Badger Connect every Wednesday. We've got a new Badger Bites video for you, and this one was a film breakdown. Kelly Sheffield was awesome. He picked out 19 different plays from Wisconsin's matches against Georgia Tech and Florida to explain basically what the thought process is and how they game plan for specific opponents. And I learned a ton, and it really gave me a great appreciation for how amazing these athletes are and the differences that are so slight that make just all the change in the world, because Wisconsin won both those matches. And again, I know we spent a lot of time talking about football and how upsetting it is. Volleyball has been awesome since Kelly Sheffield got here. They're in the Sweet 16 every year. Right now, they're a top 10 team, and they're playing a top 25 matchup against UCLA on Friday at the UW Fieldhouse. And it's 2.5 weeks away from a matchup on Halloween against #1 and undefeated Nebraska at the Fieldhouse. So if you're looking for something to do over the football bye week, October 31st, I think it's going to be lit in the UW Fieldhouse.
I am excited. The video is very cool, and I'm jealous because just spending a little time with a coach and just absorbing and listening, like I would have learned a ton, and you obviously did. So go watch that video, subscribe to Badger Connect, the camp, and the swing as well. Jesse, I appreciate you. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Grant. Talk soon.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoked. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Meow. Meow. All right.
You ring, Dave from Monona.
Let's bring some comments. Number one, people. It's people like RJ and Evil. It's their fault. Corey, sorry, get off the fence. I know you just got to be a good tailor to fix those pants. When you sit in that fence and, don't go either way. It's people like you and Evil and RJ. First of all, RJ goes to the game, spends his money. So guess what? Don't bitch because...
Dave, just to be clear, we're talking about Wisconsin football, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Give up your tickets and stop going. I would like to see, when it never happened, first quarter, everybody gets up and they leave. The fans have the final say, people. We are the idiots. It doesn't matter who you bring in. You can fire Batgirl tomorrow, and you're going to have the same issue when you come in. What I like to see is that Batgirl can earn a lot of respect with Dave Fernona. Not that it's worth 2 cents. At the end of the year, they say, bring all 100 people into the locker room and say, every one of you guys are gone. There's the door.
You're all
See you later. That makes you more fans when we accept more of that. Now, I know Pete Winona wouldn't because there's too many white players. So no matter what they do, Pete Winona is going to be upset. You got McIntosh white, Alvarez white.
He's taking so many different turns.
He's still mad because Tucker, who did the secret microphone, didn't get the job, But people, let's be honest. The bottom line is, you've got a talk show host here who thinks this is God's gift.
Me.
The 18-year-old co-ed.
Me.
I just wanted to learn. And the bottom line is, McIntosh,
Dave,
no more white players.
I never knew where this phone call was going to go, but it always surprises me. We love you, buddy.
White privilege.
A soundbite of the night, little montage from the morning show today. I couldn't believe what I was listening to when Dave from Monona called in. I was just going about my morning, getting dressed, getting ready, and Dave from Monona had to call in and lay waste to the entire, to everything and everybody, including the host to whom he was speaking. Johnny Cribbage, sorry I missed his text. He said, Jesse's view of private equity for the Big Ten. We can get into that in one of the next few weeks. I'll give you my take. I hate it. I hate private equity and anything. People who use their money with the intention of only making more money, I understand how that's investing. I understand. I get it. It's skeevy. I hate it. I'm out. Out. But I'll ask Jesse next week. Remind me, Johnny Cribbage. Bill Michaels Lotto coming up next. 2 minutes away. Don't go anywhere. The rest of you, I will talk to you tomorrow at 4.